I'm usually not comfortable with anything that is not for certain. So if you die, what's going to happen?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of بدون سكر, where talks are unfiltered and not sugar-coated. Today's episode is one of those episodes where it's actually a special request. And it was requested by Ahmed. And if you don't know who's Ahmed, it's my husband who's with me today. And it came about when we were traveling, and he said, I want to be on the podcast to talk about mental health. So, Ahmed, what brings you here today?
I've gone through a journey. And I really wanted to share it. You have that platform, so I really wanted to use it and talk about what happened. So you know that I've gone through a journey of anxiety. Back in 2020, I started having panic attacks. And I remember the first time it happened, it was in Amsterdam. And that made us go to the hospital. I thought I was gonna die, and ever since, things were not the same. And you know, growing up in Saudi, living in Saudi, I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know what mental health is, and people basically will brush it off or like not even consider.
ما فيك إلا العافية.
I mean, yeah, and يعني إذا تكلمت مع ماما and I asked her and I tell her, Mama, I feel something is up. I'm like, روح صلي, روح. I'm not. Praying is nice and everything, but they're two different things. So you remember in 2020 I moved to Dubai, and it was new for me, although I used to come to Dubai a lot, but from long distance to living together and seeing each other and being in COVID together, going through that panic attack and then starting to have a lot of anxiety and even my stomach problems, my IBS, my IBD, whatever. So like everything started to happen at the same time. And it was really dark. It was really dark. And me and you, our relationship was not the greatest.
I couldn't, and we talked about this, I'll be honest, I couldn't support you during that time. It was really hard for me to understand why you were going through all of that. For me, Dubai, Saudi is not a big move. And also, to give context, is I was a caregiver for so long that I felt like I can't do this again. And that turned me into a bad partner. And I know that it wasn't fair to you, but it was also hard on me. To see you struggling and not knowing what to do. But I also didn't do much. I should have done more.
Yeah, so it felt like I was taking that journey on my own. I was alone in that. And it felt dark. And like I really remember one time I went to the barber and I was so anxious. And like literally I couldn't breathe. And the guy was trying to like shave my beard or like cut my hair. Every time he gets closer, I feel really anxious. And we couldn't even go out because every time I would go out, I would feel I would have social anxiety. I would have a small panic attack every now and then. And then like I had to like find different ways. Then I went and I started therapy. And I started with meditation, and I started kind of unlearn a lot of things that I learned.
What
Because
was the biggest thing you had to unlearn?
I really had to remove religion from the equation.
Okay.
Because that's kind of the biggest thing. Because I've always thought that if everything that's happening to me, because I'm not religious enough, or I should go back to being very religious and listen to what my mom was telling me. But then I realized that those are two different things. I could be religious and I could pray and I could do all of that and still go through all of that.
It's not قلة إيمان أو عدم أو
No.
ضعف الإيمان. That's what I think a lot of people believe it is, that it's lack of faith that leads you to anxiety. But they don't have to be related.
Yeah, and that's also why I wanted to talk about this, because I'm from Saudi, and still every time I go back, people are not, like, the people that I know are not mature enough to understand what this is. And still, if I speak to anyone, أروح الطبيب نفسي أنت مجنون. You know, like,
يعني لسه في وصمة نار.
exactly. Still, I have a very, very close person in my life that I love so much. Yeah, and who is really struggling, who's going through a lot, but this person can't even. They know something is up.
Yeah.
But they can't, like, pick themselves up and do something about it, because it's just there's a lot of shame.
Yeah.
And like, أروح دكتور نفسي, no way I will do that. And I love a lot of people in Saudi, like back home, and I feel okay. They're getting better. People are learning more and more about this.
صار في كتير platforms.
Yeah.
That are easy to access, and more and more people are talking about healing and تشافي.
Yeah, but still,
it's not there
if
yet.
we go one level deeper into this, so if you're from the GCC, if you're Saudi, if you're a guy Saudi, you can't have that. Like, مستحيل انك انت يكون فيك شيء.
Yeah, maybe being a man, it makes it harder. That's true.
So much
it's
harder.
much more acceptable for women to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Women يخشوا في هذه الاشياء وانه healing or meditation. I don't know. I'm not trying to be sexist, but if this needs to begin, or if it's starting, then it starts with women.
Yeah.
I think because they're naturally more aware.
Yes. And vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that. And it's accepted to be vulnerable.
But tell a guy to go see a therapist. You know?
Have you told that person that you're talking about to see therapy?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
No way. No way. It's like, do you think there's something wrong in me?
So they took it as more of an insult.
Yeah. Is there something wrong in me?
But it takes that one person to break these things. Like, I think I was the first person. I'm not sure if I'm the only person in my family who's doing therapy, but I've been the first, for sure. And I openly speak about it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I told my mom that I saw a therapist, and that was back in university. I could see that she was not hurt by it, but like she understood it.
Yeah.
But she was like, "What did you talk about?" Yeah, so I understand, but now they're more accepting of it. But it takes maybe that one person to do it and for them to see the difference. But sometimes people just will never do it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel there's still some time. Like, we need to wait for people to get there. It's not gonna happen overnight.
No.
But it's just frustrating and like, مو عيب مو غلط مو حرام إنه there's something wrong with you, and like, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with panic attacks, you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with during COVID, because a lot of people everywhere, they started having mental health problems because of COVID, because it was really, really difficult. So مو عيب ومو غلط انك you take yourself, you go to a therapist and talk about things and see if this is you know this is gonna make you feel better.
The way I see it, it's self-investment. Yani the way you take yourself out on a trip, the way you'd buy that bag, the way you would get a haircut, do a spa, it's part of that. And most of the time it is expensive, and that's part of the problem as well. I don't know how expensive it is in Saudi, but in Dubai it is. But I have a budget for that, and you have to rationalize it because you're going to create barriers for yourself at the end of the day.
But yani, another example is that some people tell me, we don't have amazing therapists in the GCC or in Saudi.
And that is part of the problem.
I mean, but still, you can
it's a start.
You can start with that, or you can even find therapists all over the world.
There are a lot of global platforms.
Everything is online.
But also, I think what people don't know, and it takes time to find the right therapist. I met a lot, and I dumped some. It's like a relationship, friendship, I don't know, whatever it is, until you find your right doctor. Take it as a doctor that
honestly, I was lucky.
Yeah.
I was lucky because you kind of paved the way. You paved the way for me in this. Obviously, we're seeing the same therapist.
We see the same therapist separately, but also we did together.
We did a couple of couples therapy, right?
Yeah. We'll talk about it later. But I think if I were to give anyone any advice, I would never be with someone who never done therapy or is not open for therapy or is not doing therapy. Because it is a mode of self-care. Any type of therapy doesn't have to be talking therapy. It can be anything. I
mean, listen,
but you need to do the work.
We met in 2017. I only started seeing a therapist
because of me. No,
in 2020.
Okay. I know.
Well, maybe.
It takes time. I only saw a therapist in university, but also I've always wanted to see therapy. But what made it easier for me to see a therapist is because I kept seeing them on TV. I can, Americanized, whatever. But that helped. Media should have a big part of it, but it doesn't yet.
Yeah.
We don't portray it.
I think GCC and صراحة Saudi is doing a really good job now in like telling people about mental health.
Yes.
يعني what people need to do now is just to listen, because they're providing platforms. They're providing they're talking about different therapists and different hospitals that provide this. So خلاص يعني حتى بلد جالسة تشجع. And this is really good, and I'm happy and proud that this is finally happening. But it also takes some courage to go and like خلاص نحن جبنا لك كل شيء حطيناه عندك. Now it's your turn to kind of
take that step. But it starts with you. It's the hardest step.
And it's just that idea of إنه يا أخي أنا الحمد لله ما فيها شيء حتى لو أنت حاسس نفسك ما فيك شيء. Like therapy is not only
for bad days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I go to therapy regardless. There are times, I don't have anything to talk about, but I go anyway.
I really wished I saw a therapist before I had my panic attack. I really wished. I really didn't want to go through that. I didn't need to. Well, I needed to, but I didn't want to. If I had the option of not going through that, of course.
Yeah. What was your biggest learning from it besides mental health and therapy? Like, what did you learn about yourself during that time?
That I'm scared of death so much. That's my biggest fear. I'm so afraid that I'm gonna die at any second. And during that journey, I really had to kind of look at that and see ايش اللي انا خايف منه. So what? Had all of these conversations.
So what are you scared of exactly? Did you figure it out?
I'm scared because I'm uncertain of what's gonna happen later. So I'm usually not comfortable with anything that is not for certain. So if you die, what's going to happen? And then religion kind of comes in and kind of influences
because we have
that.
a very specific idea of what happens, like with details.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's okay.
Yeah. هخش القبر هيجي أحد هيقول أنت إيش سويت? Which one is it? If I'm good, then it's gonna be comfortable and it's gonna be it's gonna be a really like feeling like sitting in a very comfortable couch. But if I'm not, then it will be like hell before you actually go to the actual hell. So yeah, there's a lot of that, and a lot of that is kind of is engraved in my brain because of maybe the way that we were taught back in school. So it was a lot of تخويف وما كان كتير تشويق. It was العكس, تخويف. And I think that influenced it a lot. But I really had to through therapy I really feel I still feel scared of death. I'm not it's a work in progress. But at least I'm managing my anxiety. I'm managing alhamdulillah, I haven't had a panic attack for a long time. And I'm so grateful that this is not happening. And you just learn to cope, you know. I think keeping ourselves busy, doing a lot of things, and not just letting that mental lock kind of take over. I think that's it. But still, I will always be doing this. I'll always work on myself. Yeah, I really hope that people and the people that I love the most and know they take this into consideration, and that therapy is for everybody and not for anyone who has something wrong in their head. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you feel after telling the world? Well, small world.
لا بس حسيت إنه I had a message and I wanted to say it, and I really hope that it reaches someone. حتى لو كان شخص واحد. I really hope that it changes someone, or it makes someone take the action to change. So
well, thank you for your time, and thank you for opening up about it. I know it's really hard. I know it was really hard. I saw it firsthand. I didn't necessarily deal with it very well, but it was a hard time during COVID, and we were stuck and all of that. And I think as a partner, you should encourage your partner to seek help, and it's not enough to talk to the partner because we are not qualified, and it should be separated, because that can impact the way you perceive your partner and your relationship. And our relationship was one of the worst times. It was one of our lowest times. I did not react well. I was dealing with my own things as well, as always. It was a tough time, and there was a lot of work as well. And I think what helped, I think Ahmed didn't mention, so he traveled back to Saudi and stayed there for 7 months because he couldn't leave. That also impacted our relationship, but it gave us both the space to be separated in our thinking and to heal on our own without impacting the relationship. Because people manifest stress and anxiety in very different ways. Ahmed manifests it very physically as well. And it's an how do I say it? You can see it. It was very visible. Usually it is quite visible, especially with people who don't deal with it very well, who don't mask it. I've dealt with depression for almost all my life. So I have my days where I can mask. I have days where I don't mask. Ahmed couldn't mask it. And living in a 1-bedroom apartment during COVID, seeing that, it was really hard all the time. So you need space, and it's not enough to just talk to someone who is a friend or who is a partner or who is a parent. You need that objective, trained expertise to help you get out of this and to equip you with the tools and the skills and the knowledge and the confrontation to help yourself, but it always starts with you. So I think our message is do whatever you need to get the help that you need, and everyone is struggling with something. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you or with them. So let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us today for this episode. And again, thank you, Ahmed, for being honest.
Thanks, Razan.
Bye. Bye.